Hi. This is a comedy channel. I'm here to make people laugh, but I need to address something. We need to talk about something serious for a moment. So, actual mic time. If you aren't in the space to hear about something serious, don't care, or that are watching this past when this is relevant, feel free to skip to this timestamp, and we'll be back to the funnies. Thank you. It's a scary time right now in America. I'm recording this on the 20th of January, 2025. That's correct. I had to check the date because it's all blurring together. And I'm worried about how things are going, but I'm choosing to remain hopeful. Hopefully this channel can be what it was always meant to be and be a place to bring smiles and laughter into the lives of people that need some escapism. That's certainly what it is for me. That and a creative outlet. But sometimes serious things happen and they need to be addressed. So I want to make very clear now and forevermore that this channel, my Discord, any of my social medias that do or will exist are, have been, and always will be a safe place for LGBTQ, gay, trans, bi, doesn't matter what, all races, anyone of any color, any upbringing, does not matter. You are welcome here, and being born, raised, or anything else that is not immediately coming to mind will always be accepted and welcome with open arms. The only thing that will not be accepted as a ground rule at all times will be hate. Unreasoned, unfounded hate just because someone is different than you are. If that describes you, if you disagree with any of the labels that I just said are welcome here, if you are anti-gay, anti-trans, sexist, racist, whatever, I will kindly ask you to find the door. Get the fuck off my platform right now. Not a joke. If you stand for any of that shit, if you're happy about this, gone. Goodbye, don't care. And if you're like me and can recognize this for the horrifying step that it is for the country and for the world, know that you're not alone. Plenty of others can see through the bullshit, that this is a point of pride or a Roman salute or whatever. We all know what this is, and we all know what it's getting at and where it's gonna go, and I hope that something gets in the way of it, and that might have to be us. And I know that that's really scary, and I hope that that isn't true, but I wanted to make clear where I stand on this whole thing. So, I promised Pincer that he would get to show up this episode, last episode, and I have realized why I did that now, because Pincer has a certain signature move that I think is very relevant to this and to what's going on. And I won't say any more because I don't want this channel to get taken down, but if you know, you know, and you can go looking. Thank you for sitting through this with me, and let's have some laughs. I'm gonna get back into character now, but thank you for bearing with me on that. Whew! We catching a Snorlax? Cause someone's tossing around some heavy balls. That was heavy. Ugh. Let's talk about grass type. Grass type, one of the big three, the original rock, paper, scissors. The starter cycle. Why is it so bad? And hey, this is the third one where this is officially a series now, so I'm gonna start considering all the other types, which means eventually I'll have to talk about that one. We're not gonna think about that right now. Grass type. It sucks. It shouldn't. I'm upset about it. Let's talk about that. Grass type is not great. And it's not great even relative to the other two starter types. And I'm upset about that. Let's start where we usually start. Grass is super effective against three things. Sort of middle of the road. 3 isn't terrible. The biggest is 5 with fighting and ground. Weird. Ground. I know, right? Who would have thought? Ground. One of the 2 strongest hitting types. Anyway, certainly doing better than normal over here. Or dragon. Ugh. Yikes. But the problem with this, as always, is the ratio. Where 3 is alright, 7 is not. 7 is not. We gotta do some trimming here. Or something's gotta change. The problem is a lot of them make sense. However, I think they only make sense because we've been trained on Pokemon for so long. So let's talk about a few of these. Bug, I can't really say anything about, and Bug doesn't need any more reductions as is. We already talked about that one. Yeah, I know, Pincer, it's okay. We're not gonna make any worse. So Bug can stay, Bug's fine. Fire also, complete the wheel, sure. Fire burns up plants, sure, makes total sense. That one can stick around. Grass, resisting itself. I don't super get it. I get that this is here because water resists itself and fire resists itself, and for whatever reason they wanted the starting 3 types to all resist themselves. I don't know why that was important. Like, fire makes sense. Fire can't burn fire. It's not really going to do anything to a fire. Resisting itself makes sense. Water, I guess I can also see, like, if you hit water with water, you've just got more water. Sure. Why does grass resist itself? We use wooden axes to chop down trees all the time. Also, why is it grass and not plant? I am just now having this thought, but like, there are plenty of non-grasses in there. Like, Phantom's not a grass. Trevenant's not a grass. Tree grass. Ooh, I might have to use that for a D&D session. The grass is trees, and you're either really big or the trees are really small. I'm getting off topic here. I don't super get why grass resists itself beyond it being the 3rd of 3 and needing to fit the mold, which, as we'll get into in a minute, it's a double standard. Grass is getting double standard, and I'm not here for it. Dragon, another one that is there because the other 2 are there, and they wanted something to be a big final boss against the main 3 starters. And alright, I'm fine with that. And then steel resists everything. Sure. All of these I can see a world for, I can get behind, I guess. Poison is strange to me. Now, I hear what you're saying. Poison the grass, poison the plants. Does that happen? Does that ever happen? When was the last time you heard about a plant getting poisoned? I've heard of poisonous plants. Grass poison multi-type makes total sense. Poisonous plant. Sure. Side note, why isn't there a grass move that inflicts the poison condition? That makes total sense. But I can't really think of any time ever of a grass getting poisoned, of a plant getting poisoned. I don't know where we got this notion, and it feels right to say it when you just glance at it, but I think it only feels right because we're like, yeah, that's what it is, because Pokemon, so that's what it is. But, I mean, there's pesticides, I guess, but that feels more like some sort of natural thing than, or, sorry, inorganic thing than, like, I guess poison's not necessarily organic or inorganic, but you get my point. Pesticides seems like a very niche reason for poison to be super effective, and pesticides are meant to help the plants. So I really don't know what this is getting on. And then the other one that's weird and that I don't get, flying type. Why is flying good against grass? Is the argument that flying types, or birds rather, usually eat seeds? Is that what we're getting at? Because it feels like that's what we're getting at. And if that's what we're getting at, fine, but plants evolved to do that on purpose. They evolved so that the seeds would be delicious and tasty for the little squirrels and the birds and the badgers. I don't know, what else eats seeds? So that their seeds would get spread around, because every seed is not important. You ask a poorly trained sperm bank employee and they'll tell you every seed is not important. And also, if flying is good against grass, shouldn't normal be good against grass? Because squirrel? Because chipmunk? If we're saying that bird eats seed, the number one, like, acorn, squirrel. Seed, bird. How did normal get left out of this? But I'm not saying that normal should be brought into this, I'm saying that we should get flying out of there. And I can see the argument that, like, oh, they can fly, they can go up where the plants are not. But then, that should really make flying type good against everything. How many types can get up to where birds go? Poison certainly can't. Fighting's already there. The only things that can really get up there is water and electricity, and maybe steel if we're factoring in bullets. And maybe fire if we're counting heat and solar radiation as fire, but that feels like a stretch. And maybe cold, sure, that one makes sense. It do be chilly up there. I would know, I'm a bird. But if we're just saying, bird, get away from ground, so many things are the ground. Fuck you, ground type. You're not special. Anyway, that part of the typing chart, whack. Don't like it. But at least they're a defensive powerhouse to make up for their offensive weakness.
He said, sarcastically setting up a second verse in a comedy's
Grass resists 4 things. Ground, Sure, I get it. Grows in the ground. It has to be used to any of the shit that would happen there. Sure. Water, of course, gets the cycle. Yep, sure. Grass resists itself, which I've spoken about already. I don't know how I super feel about that, but whatever. And grass resisting electric. Sure. Again, weird, but I get it. It's meant to be like another grounding agent, like you're not gonna really shock a plant to death, and also there's not really a ton of electricity out in nature other than lightning. Sure, I get it. I get where that's coming from. That can all stay. Weak to 5 different things. As previously mentioned, I don't super love the poison thing. It makes a little more sense before. It doesn't make any sense that poison is super effective against grass, as previously mentioned. It sort of makes sense that that grass wouldn't be very good attacking poison. That I can get, especially since really the only way a plant can significantly attack you is with a poison. That wouldn't really work on a poison. I get it. Sure, that's fine. Bug also makes sense. I get it. Bugs should really be the answer here, and poison bug really don't need anything nerfed here. Again, it makes sense. Bug eat plant. Most of the time. 90% of the time, bug eat plants. So yeah, sure, that can stick around. Fire, yep, totally. Complete the wheel, got it, sure. Flying! Man, I'm realizing earlier I flipped in my head what we were talking about, but why would flying be good against grass? Why would they be particularly good at attacking grass? And again, I see the seed thing, and again, I raise you the plants want their seeds to be taken by birds. So like, if you attack the thing I want you to attack, that's not me losing. And beyond that, birds wouldn't be particularly good in a fight against trees. Birds live in trees. Trees win that. I wouldn't win a fight against a house. Do you have any idea how much Vicodin is in that man's system at any given time? I don't even have any mouse bites on hand. The fuck am I gonna do? And the last one on the list is ice. Ice being super effective into grass. Now here's the part where I have some inner turmoil, because I've already defended ice types, and I stand by that they don't need to get any weaker. They need to get stronger in some way. But I also feel like I'm about to propose a nerf to ice type, because why is ice super effective against grass? Or rather, plant in general. Now I hear what you're all saying. Winter. Kill all the plants. But like, no though. Winter doesn't kill the plants. It kills the leaves. As soon as spring comes, they're back up. The trees regrow all their leaves. The grass becomes healthy again. The bushes come back to life. All of the sturdy wood and like the parts that are meant to take the cold can take the cold. Why are we saying that cold is good at killing plants? That's the thing that it's not good at killing. You know what cold is great at killing? Regular animals. If a fox gets too cold, it dies. And then it doesn't get back up when summer comes. I think I'm making a case for ice being super effective against normal. Tack that onto this video. Anyway, grass really is the thing that should be able to take ice the most. If you think about it, other than like steel, but that's steel. What are you going to do against steel? Defensive Super Titan. We're going to talk about you later, Steel type. Don't you worry. You're going to get a different flavor of justice.
And it ain't vanilla.
So how do we fix it? How do we deal with this cavalcade of weakness? Well, first of all, get the birds out of here. Not what I meant. Flying type no longer has anything to do with grass type. The two really aren't related in any meaningful way. If anything, grass resists flying for the aforementioned house argument.
Which is why Arceus created a universe with 3 states of matter.
Arceus?
Look it up.
Secondly, drop grass resisting itself. I know that the other two have that, fire and water. I don't care. We're about to get into why it's not fair anyway. Drop them. Third, leave that grass is not very effective against poison, but drop that it's weak to poison. Because as we've gone over this. I'm also kicking around adding rock to the thing that grass resists. I'm not super sure about that. Rock doesn't really need another nerf. They're kind of having a tough time as it is. Maybe another one we'll talk about here soon. That could possibly make sense. Here's my big one. Here's my big swing for the fences. Let's have grass resist psychic type. They're mind readers. Plant ain't got no mind. You can't outthink a plant. There's no thinks in there. And for those of you arguing telekinesis, stop arguing that. I said stop. Just stop. Don't do that. But I hear you asking, we're talking about grass. Surely it's weak because it's a starter. And the water and fire types are equally as weak. Ha 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 is what I say to that. Here's the water type spread. Notice anything different? Notice anything different in these 4 numbers versus these 4 numbers? And which of them are bigger and which of them are smaller? Water is only bad against 3 things. And only 2 things are good at it. That's 5. You know what 5 is less than? 12. I know we're really breaking some new ground here, but 5, less than 12. And the other half does not nearly make up for it. Fire, I hear you saying. Well, it's 7 instead of 12, or instead of 5, so that's closer, and I can see fire being a little more of that, because it's, you know, fire, good at tearing things apart, good at burning things down, literally. Holy defenses, Batman! I get that it's hard to hurt a fire, but, like, does this seem fair to you? This does not seem fair. Seems unfair. Seems not cool. Seems hot, in fact. Scaldingly hot. Uncool. Unfair. Not chill. Don't like it. Go away, fire type. We'll talk about you later, too, and you're not gonna like it. So clearly, if we're considering fairness between the starting wheel, one of our poor little boys is doing considerably worse than our other 2 little boys. Can you tell I like Bulbasaur? Speaking of Bulbasaur, a lot of the rebuttal that I've seen to this is, oh, well, grass makes up for it in the starter wheel in that it gets an easier time at the gym, specifically in getting the ball rolling. Brock is weak to grass type and also water, but then the second gym, Misty, weak to grass type again. Misty resists water and fire. Clearly, there's grass's superiority. And that's usually where the line of thinking stops. I decided to follow this train all the way to the last station. And you'll be surprised to see what I learned. I'm gonna go through all of the generations with gyms, sorry Alola, and we're gonna go through how many gyms in a row from the beginning there is either something good or something bad for grass type. As previously mentioned, Gen 1 is 2, but actually it's 3, because grass resists electricity, remember? So it's actually good at the first 3 gyms. That's when it stops being relevant. Gen 2 was not as friendly. Gen 2 starts off with 2 bad things for grass, so I guess Chikorita can really go fuck itself. I'm so sorry, Chikorita, you do not deserve all the hate you get. Gen 3 and 4, we get 1 good. They really like opening with rock type, and I don't understand why that is. Gen 5 starts as sort of a wash because it's the 3 things, so you're bad going into it no matter what, so that felt disingenuous to count. And then normal type, so that's a wash too. And then a bad for the 3rd one, so that's just getting the ball rolling slowly and then hitting a curb. Or, in the other timeline, it's 1 wash and then 2 bads right in a row. Because if they thought it was too easy for grass type the first time, so they made it actively harder. Gen 6, it's our 2 starting gym types, our old favorites again, bad and good in that order, bug and rock, yet again. Gen 7, as previously mentioned, doesn't exist. Not real, didn't happen. Gen 8, wouldn't you believe it, is the 3 starter types again, but this time it's 3 gyms, so we got bad, good, bad in that order, because grass is bad against grass. And finally in Gen 9, we got 2 bads right in a row, bug and grass. So, hope you didn't pick Sprigatito, because that cat is going in the trash can, where it belongs, because it stood up. We're gonna have to glue whatever Gen 10's cat is to all 4 paws to the ground, so that it can't fucking stand up. But, I hear you saying, that's just getting the ball rolling. What about the rest of the gyms? And don't you worry, I counted. So here's the full spread. Gen 1, depending on what timeline you're in, looks like this. That's a 0.5 because it's either Giovanni, which is a good, or it's blue, which is various, which is neutral. So you can either call that 4-1 or 3-2, up to you. Gen 2 is fucking brutal. Chicory. You know what? TFS said it best. You are You are a mistake.
Mistake.
Poor Mr. and Miss Steak. Gen 2 is rough for grass types. Gen 3, perfectly even. Can't be upset about that. Gen 4, also a perfect palindrome. You love to see it, you love to see it. Gen 5 wasn't great. It was better in part 2, but it still wasn't great. Gen 6, not good. Tables are skewing towards bad. Gen 4 was tough. There is an asterisk here. Because one of the gym is either ice or rock type, so that's either bad or good. We called it middle of the road here. And Gen 9 is just slightly tilted out of grass's favor. Here in front of me are all of the gens that are a perfect palindrome. Here to my right are all of the gens that are actively good for grass type. And here are all of the gens that are actively bad for grass type. If you'll notice, the scales aren't exactly balanced. So that argument can fuck right off. And finally, as usual, stats. Stats matter. Stats totally matter. Normal types get a lot of play because a lot of them have really good stats, even though their type kind of blows. So let's look at these stats. Grass type caps out at 10th place. That's the best it can do. The worst it can do, if you're curious, is one off of last. And again, only because rock types are slow as shit.
I was running.
So there's nothing special to write home about here. Especially when its best stat is defense, and as previously mentioned, it gets its shit kicked in by a whole lot of different things. A lot of which happen to be primarily physical attackers. But at least its defenses make for better resistances, right? Well, no, because its resistances are water and electric. Very special types. It's good for ground, I guess, but how often is your grass type getting earthquaked? And a grass into itself, it actually has a perfect tie in attack and special attack, so that one's kind of a wash, just like this whole type, because grass type can't catch a fucking break. What do we do about this? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what we do about this. I'm thinking back to the last two. My last two conclusion paragraphs. All that English homework had to mean something, where ice types need to get better because look at them, they've been snubbed for so long. And bug types don't need to get better because they're bug types. They're little dudes. That makes sense. And I think what I'm settling on is that grass types are alright where they are. I feel like the three starting types should be pretty abundant and pretty middle of the road. Or alternately, very scarce and very middle of the road, because they're your starters. And I understand wanting to let the starters have some specialness to them. So their types being very scarce makes sense. See also Fire type Gen 4. However, I think all of that goes out the window if it's not concurrent within itself. Which is to say, Fire type being scarce, good thing in Gen 4, is overwritten by, here's the fire types, hey, look at all these water types. So there either needs to be a bunch of it, or very little of it, but not a mix of the two. Similarly, I'm okay with grass sticking kinda where it is. Maybe it could use a little bit of a buff, but only if water and fire drop down to match it. And they both need some heavy reductions anyway. We'll get into that in future videos. But for now, I guess what my final wrap up this time is, don't have lawns. Lawns are bad. Grass is pretty bad. Plants are good. And biodiversity is great. So get out there, let your lawns stop looking like this status symbol, elitist piece of shit, and let it start looking like this or this. Because gardening is good for people, and biodiverse plant life is good for the planet. And both of that is pretty good for us. Have a good one, everyone, and stay safe.
And a special thanks to patrons like you and like Malayik.
Caw! Felt like you guys earned one of those.